Good morning everyone. So today I am beginning with something which is very important for your examination, and this topic is something that will almost decide how well you do in your exam. That is called syllogism, right? So syllogism is one topic which has been constantly there in the examination IBPS PO as well as clerical right from the inception. If you look at the time from where we have prelims and mains, and even if you take the last year paper, last to last year's paper, you will see that 5 questions from syllogism will always be there in the prelims and also in the mains. And these questions are not very difficult. The scoring questions sometimes little tricky nowadays when the difficulty is going up. So it becomes almost mandatory for you to understand that this is one topic that is going to decide whether you are going to clear the examination or not, right? So 5 marks in the reasoning section, when the cutoff is around 12-13, that means almost half of the cutoff you can get in the prelims examination just from the topic of syllogism. So syllogism is one topic which is a part of so many different courses, and it's a very ancient topic. You see, it started long time back in Greece when a person called Aristotle created this concept of syllogism or logical reasoning, or also called as deductive logic, right? And that is why this topic is also called as Aristotelian logic in some of the books. Today we are going to study it from the basics, understand all types of statements which are there, and by developing a very strong foundation, I will make sure that you will never do any mistake while solving questions on syllogism. So let us first understand what is the goal for the class today. We will first of all understand what is syllogism, and then we will also learn the categorical propositions. That means the different types of statements which are there in syllogism or logical reasoning. So these are the two main things. And you see, I divided this entire topic into 4 modules. 2 modules I am going to cover today itself in the first and second session, and 2 modules tomorrow in the third and fourth session of syllogism, right, in which I am going to take you through everything. First, in today's first session, I am teaching you what is categorical propositions. Then I will teach you how to use Venn diagrams for solving questions on syllogism. Then I will teach you how to solve questions by using distributivity, and then I will also discuss advanced level questions based on the current difficulty and the expected difficulty in the examination that is going to happen this year, right. So today my voice is a little off because of cold and cough, just bear with me. Let us start and see first of all what is syllogism, understanding the concept of syllogism. So I will start with the very basic statement that, as I told you, thousands of years ago in ancient Greece, Aristotle used a 2 statement structure. Let us say, for example, he said that all men are mortal. One second, just let me adjust the pen. So we had 2 statement structure. Statement 1, so we say something is syllogism when we have 2 statements, and followed by the 2 statements we come to a conclusion. So Aristotle, an ancient Greek philosopher, said that, okay, all men are mortal. Okay, this was his first statement. Mortal means someone who dies. All men are mortal. And his second statement was, his teacher, his guru you can say, whose name was Socrates. Socrates is a man. So these were the 2 statements. He said all men are mortal and Socrates is a man. So based on 2 statements, what conclusion we can come to? What is the conclusion? The first statement says that anyone who belongs to the set of man must belong to the set of those who are mortal, right. So understand this first statement. The first statement says anyone who belongs to the set of men must also belong to the set of those who are mortal. And the second statement tells you that Socrates definitely belongs to the set of men, right. Socrates is a man. So that means the conclusion must be that Socrates is mortal. So this structure is what we call as syllogism. Two statements followed by a conclusion. The statements are also called as premise, the basis on which the conclusion is being made, premise. So premise 1 plus premise 2 gives a conclusion. This structure of logical thinking is called as syllogism. So then what is important then? What is important is to understand all types of statements, that can come in syllogism, because all we have to do is understand statements, and then by using those statements we have to come to conclusion, right? So how will we come to conclusion if we don't know how to understand and interpret the statements? So our first task today in the first session is to understand all types of statements, and which we call as categorical propositions. So I will take you through these categorical propositions one by one. This will be our first task. All types of statements, or we call these statements as categorical propositions. A proposition is made, a statement is made. So what are the different categorical propositions? What are the valid conclusions we can make? Everything in detail I will be teaching you, right from the basics, with nothing being missed out, right? So once you understand these things, there will be nothing that can prevent you from getting your questions right in the examination, okay? So that is what is the main agenda and aim for today's session. So let's start by discussing different types of categorical propositions one by one, okay? Okay, all right. Let's start with the first categorical proposition. The first categorical proposition is what we call as universal affirmative. What is the name? Universal affirmative. We call it universal affirmative because it talks about the entire set, the entire universe, and affirmative because it gives you a positive statement. So we can say it's UA. In some books they also label it as A. They say universal affirmative is A. So the first statement and the most basic statement you can say is universal affirmative, and the statement is that all x's are y's. So what is the meaning of this statement? So we start by discussing the meaning. What is the meaning of this statement? And everything in detail we will see from the basics. The meaning of universal affirmative. What is the meaning of this statement? All x's are y's. So the meaning of the statement is that everything, very simple, everything that belongs to x, everything that belongs to s, belongs to x, must also belong to y. Very simple. Everything that belongs to x must also belong to y. This is the meaning. So let's see. First thing to understand about the statement is what is the meaning of the statement. How do we represent this statement using a diagram? So next thing to understand is diagram. See, this is what we are going to do with every statement without being in any hurry, understanding from the fundamentals so that your concepts become so strong you don't have to revise the topic again, okay? So everything that belongs to x must also belong to y. That is what we say, all x's are y's. So diagram will be x is contained inside y. So let's say this is a set of y. Then x is a set inside y. Okay, x is a set which is inside y. x belongs to y. Everything that belongs to x must belong to y. X is completely contained inside y. Okay, that is the meaning of the statement. How big or small this x is, that we don't know, and that is what we'll see later on. What are possibilities, what all we have to keep in mind while solving, but this is the basic diagram. Keep this in mind. This is the basic diagram that we are going to use while solving questions on logical reasoning syllogism for the first statement, that is universal affirmative. So let's again understand quickly what is this first statement. Universal affirmative is all x's are y's. We call it universal affirmative because it says that all x, it talks about the entire set of x, and it gives information in the positive, so it's affirmative. All x's are y's. What is the meaning? Everything that belongs to x must also belong to y. And what is the diagram? The diagram is here, that x is a smaller circle completely contained inside y, which is the larger circle. How big y is, what is the gap between x and y, those things we will discuss later. First understand the basic diagram. So once we have seen this, the next thing that we will look at is what is the valid conclusion. We will understand three things here. What is the valid conclusion of universal affirmative? Now valid conclusion means something that is always true. If the statement is given to us, this conclusion is always true, it is logically correct, there is no if and but, there is no discussion. कोई डाउट नहीं होता है इस कंक्लूजन के बारे में, ये फिक्स है. अगर आपको दिया हुआ है ऑल एक्सेस आर वाइज, तो उसमें से वैलिड कंक्लूजन क्या होगा वो हम देखना है कि समथिंग विच इज ऑलवेज ट्रू. सो द वैलिड कंक्लूजन ऑफ ऑल एक्सेस आर वाइज इज सम वाइज आर एक्सेस. If all x's are y's, some y's are x's. You can look at the diagram also. This is y, this is x. Okay, so some part of y is overlapping with x, correct? So that is the only valid conclusion of this statement, all x's are y's. So you should always know for every statement what is the valid conclusion. Then only you will be able to solve the questions correctly. The second thing that we need to understand about the statement all x's are y's, that is universal affirmative, is what is always false. See, we are breaking it in a very structured way. What is always true? What is always false? If you can understand these things, there will be no doubt. You can even solve the toughest of the questions based on possibilities and uncertainties. We can solve the questions without any difficulty. So what is the valid conclusion? Something which is always true. And now we are going to look at what is always false. So if I say that no x is y, can this be true? Understand what is given to you. What is the statement? Let me write the statement here. Universal affirmative. The statement is all x's are y's. Since it's already given to you that all x's are y's, how can you say that no x is y, right? That means definitely no x is y is false, which is why we are writing it under the category always false. That means if it is given to you that all x's are y's is true, then no x is y will always be false. Second statement that we have to understand, which is always false, is no y is x. How is this possible, right? We see from the diagram that x is inside y. That means at least some y will definitely be x, right? Which is why the valid conclusion also is that some y's are x. So to say that no y is x will become wrong. Okay, that is why this also comes under the category that something which is always false. No x is y is false. No y is x is also false. Next we have to understand that some x's are y's. Sorry. Some x's are y's will also be false, because the statement has clearly told you that all x's are y's. So if all x's are y's, how can you say that some x's are y's? When I am giving you complete information, then asking for a partial information will not be correct. Let us say for an example that there is a teacher and the principal is asking the teacher in a college that go to this particular classroom, and in that classroom find out how many students want to participate in the school exhibition. Suppose the college or school is conducting an exhibition, and the principal is telling the class teacher, go and discuss in your class and tell me how many students in the class are interested in participating in the exhibition. The teacher goes and comes out and tells the principal that, sir, all the students are interested in participating. Correct? Listen to the comment of the teacher. All the students are interested in participating. Now can the principal then ask the teacher that some students are interested? Now see, the teacher has already told all students are interested. Then the question, asking the question as to whether some students are interested or not, makes no sense. That is why we say that when the statement tells you clearly that all x's are y's, then coming up with the conclusion that some x's are y's is not right, and that is why it comes under the category always false. Next thing that is definitely false is that some x's are not y's. Some x's are not y's. Again the statement is very clearly telling you that all x's are y's. So then to say that some x's are not y's makes no logical meaning. That is why these four statements here, one, that no x is y, second, that no y is x, third, some x's are y's, and fourth, some x's are not y's, all of these are always false. Now the third thing that we have to keep in mind is, what are the statements that may be true or false? See, always there will be some statements which may be true or false. This is what we call as possibilities. Okay. Nowadays you see in the examination, any sample paper, you will always see that a number of questions in the exam ask you about possibilities, and that also now they have changed and they are trying to use newer words and asking questions in more creative ways. That is why we are going to up our game and learn from a very different level, advanced level. Start from the basic, go till the advanced. That is our strategy for every session. So what may be true, may be false, means we don't know. What does it mean? It means we are uncertain. This third type of statements deals with something that we are not certain about, something which is uncertain, that is may be true, may be false. What are uncertain? First of all, let us see. If I say all x's are y's, this is our statement, all x's are y's, can we say that all y's are x's? Now try to understand this. Can we say all y's are x's? This is the first statement that we are going to talk about. Can we say all y's are x's? This is very important. Now, is it false? If you look at this drawing here, look at the diagram. X is a smaller circle contained inside y. It appears to you that there is some part of y which lies outside x. So you might say that no, all y's are not x, only some y's are x, but that is not entirely true. Let us see the statement here. When you say all x's are y's and x is a circle inside y, how do we know how big or small x is? Correct? We don't know that. Clear? we don't know how big or small x is. What we have made is only a tentative diagram. So what we can definitely do is we can increase the size of x. Let's try increase the size of x here. Now x has become bigger. Still you see all x's are y's. Correct? Still it's true, right? The statement is true. All x's are y's. But the size of x has increased. If I further increase the size of x, I can say almost x and y can overlap. So this is y, this is x, and x completely overlaps y. That means that if all x's or y's is given to you, then it is possible. It is a possibility, not certainty. I am not saying 100% that it will happen. It is a possibility that all y's are x's. That is the first thing that comes under maybe true, maybe false, right? So understand clearly, we have to understand all types of things here. What is valid conclusion? There is no discussion, there is no debate about this. Valid conclusion is something which is always true. There is nothing to worry about the diagram, there is nothing to worry about cases or different scenarios. It's fixed, it's always true. Similarly, we don't need to worry about things which are always false. They are clearly wrong. There is no question about if and then, there is no question about this case or that case, right? What we have to keep in mind is that there are some scenarios which in some cases can be true and in some cases can be false, right? So that is why we have to keep in mind those statements which are maybe true, maybe false, which are uncertain. So all y's are x's is one such statement. Continuing with this third type, that is a statement which comes under maybe true, maybe false. We will see what else we have. Maybe true or false. What else we have in this condition? So what is given to us? All x's are y's. That is our basic statement. So keep this in mind. Our basic statement is all x's are y's. So the second statement that can come here under maybe true, maybe false is that some y's are not x's. Some y's are not x's. This is definitely under uncertainty. It is not sure. We don't know, because just see the previous statement. Look at the previous statement here. All y's are x's is also one of the uncertainties, that it can maybe true, maybe false. For example, in this third scenario, there is no y which is not overlapping with x. That is why this second statement here, some y's are not x's, cannot be a certain. It will be possible. It is possible to be true, it is possible to be false. Possibilities are very important to keep in mind while solving questions on logical reasoning. Okay, so some y's are not x's is again a possibility. So we have seen all the statements here. What is always a valid conclusion, what are the four statements which are always false, and what are the two statements which may be true and may be false, right? So if you see here, let's say we make this thing, if all x's are y's is true, if all x's are y's is true. Let me write down these statements here. First of all, there are total of 8 statements. All x's are y's, no x is y. Third one becomes some x's are y's, fourth becomes some x's are not y. These are the 4 statements from x to y, and same 4 statement we will have from y to x also. All y's are x's, all y's are x's. You can note down the statements. All y's are x's, no y is x. Then 7th statement becomes some y's are x, some y's are x's, and then the final statement is some y's are not x's. Some y's are not x's. So we have total of 8 statements. So if all x's or y's is true, then this statement will definitely be true because that is the statement itself. No x is y will definitely be false, as we have seen earlier. Some x's or y's will be false. One by one, we have discussed this earlier also. Some x's are not y's is false. All y's are x is uncertain, so that comes under possibility. Uncertain. No y is x is false. Which statements are false? Which statements are true? Some y's are x's is uncertain. It comes under, some y's are x's is the valid conclusion. So just note it here. Some x y's are x's is true, and this is the valid conclusion of this particular case. And finally we have some y's are not x's, which is uncertain. So for every statement we are going to go through all of these things. You note it down, all the statements, and you can note down which of the statements are true, which of the statements are false, right, and which of the statements are uncertain. Very clearly you will note down everything so that you can revise through this, and this will help you in making sure that always you get the answers right. So we have finished the first statement. We will move to the next one. Next statement is a very simple one, so it will be a quick one. Let's do this. So the second categorical proposition is no x is y. No x is y is a very basic statement. What is the meaning of this statement? First of all, this statement is what we call as universal negative. Note it, universal negative, or UN. In some books it is given as E. What is the meaning of this statement? We should understand that. What is the meaning? Anything that belongs to x, anything that belongs to x will never belong to y. Anything that belongs to x will never belong to y. That is the meaning of the statement. So you see, first thing to understand is meaning. Next we have to understand, for this statement, what is the diagram. That's again very simple. Diagram is also very easy. X is a separate circle and y is a separate circle. No x is y, so we can ideally make a link like this and put a cross here, just to signify that x and y will never overlap, because sometimes in one particular diagram set we will have 2-3 such circles which might be linked with no x is y. So it's always better just to make a link and put a cross, right? So someone says no rats are cats, no cats are bats, something like this they will give you in the exam. So we will say, okay, this is a rat circle, this is cat circle, this is the bat circle. No rats are cats, so put a cross here. No cats are bats, so put a cross here. Now you understand that rat circle will not overlap with the cat circle will not overlap with the bat circle, but these two circles, the rat and bat, they don't have a negative link. That means there is a possibility of overlap between the rat circle and bat circle. That is why we make this negative link, to make it very clear that which are the two circles which cannot overlap. So that is a diagram for the second statement, no x is y or universal negative. Clear? Meaning anything that belongs to x will never belong to y. Now we will go to the three things here. First is valid conclusion. Now you already know the meaning of these things, so I am not going to write again. Valid conclusion means always true. If no x is y, that means no y is x. Very simple, no confusion, no doubt, no dilemma. Second, always false. This is also very easy because it is very clearly given to us which are the statements that two circles x and y can never overlap. So any statement linking x and y will become always false. For example, all x's are y's will be false. All y's are x's will be false. Some x's are y's will also be false. Some y's are x's will also be false. Clear? This will definitely be false. Now some x's are not y's. Some x's are not y's. This also will be false because we clearly are saying no x is y. There is no confusion here. Some y's are not x's. This will also be false. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 statements are always false, and third one may be true or false, which means uncertainties or possibilities. None. That means there are no uncertainties in this particular statement. That is why this is the simpler statement, nothing much to worry about. The statement no x is y. The two major statements we have covered for you. Okay. Now is the time to discuss the previous session contest question, and then we will see the contest question for the day and move on to discussing the other two categorical propositions. So this question was there yesterday, 365 into 999 plus 235 into 245. The answer very simple. I have taught you the technique yesterday itself. When you are multiplying a number with 999, that is very simple. You just reduce this number by 1. So 364 and 3 and 6 is 9, 6 and 3 is 9, 5 plus 5 is 10. So 365 into 999 is equal to 364 635 plus 235 into 245. This is of the form n5 into n plus 1 5. Okay. Now the technique for this is that you take the larger number, 24 square minus 1. So 24 square is 576 minus 1, that is 575, and the number will end in 75. Just look at the technique we have discussed yesterday. So just add these numbers, 364, 635 and 575, 57575, add them and you will get the answer. So 0, 7 plus 3 10 plus 1 11, carry, that is 12, again 1 12, carry, 11 plus 1 12, 4. So 4 222 2 1 0. That is your answer for previous session contest question. Alright. Now let us see the contest question for the day. Look at the screen. You have a contest question based on syllogism logical reasoning statement. Which of the following conclusions is correct? If you are given that only red can be blue. Look at the question, look at the 4 conclusions given to you, A, B, C, and then again D, which is none of these. Look at the question, try to figure out which of the following conclusions is correct. Correct means which of the following conclusions will be logically correct, which follows logically. Okay, all right. So let's see. I'll discuss this particular contest question in my next session. By then, I'll also teach you some variations which will help you in understanding how to solve such questions. Okay. All right. Now, categorical propositions continue. Two statements we have seen. Let's go to the third one. The third statement is what is called as universal. Is called particular affirmative. Particular affirmative. It gives us information about a particular set, not the whole thing, only about a particular set, and it's in some books they call this statement as I. A, E, I, O, that is nothing but the first four vowels of the English alphabet. Okay. So particular affirmative PA, the statement. First of all, what is the statement? Some x's are y. It talks about some of the x's, right? Some. That is why it's called particular. It gives us positive information. That is why it's called affirmative. So again, let's say what is the meaning of the statement. So meaning is very clear. Some elements which belong to x, some elements which belong to x, some elements which belong to x also belong to y. Clear? So there is an overlap between x and y. So very simple to understand. Next thing to understand is diagram. So how do you make the diagram? X is one circle and y is another circle, and some x's are y's. This is our basic diagram. This is what we make while solving the question. This is our basic diagram. Every time we get a statement like some x's or y's, this diagram is what we make, but we always keep in mind a possible diagram. A possible diagram is that x is a larger circle and y is inside x. You see, some x's are y's, some x's are y's. So those elements of x which are overlapping with y, that is the part of x. Like some numbers are even numbers. So numbers is a larger circle and even number is a smaller circle inside the circle of numbers. Okay. So this is the basic diagram, because we don't use our common logic while solving questions, we just go by the statement. But while coming up with possibilities, we keep this second diagram also in mind. Okay. So what is the meaning? Some elements which belong to x also belong to y, and what are the diagrams that we have to understand. Okay. Now we'll go to the more important thing, that is to understand the things like what are the valid conclusions. So again, the first one, for every statement we do this. What is a valid conclusion? Things which is always true. So if it's given to you that some x's are y's, now this is one of the most important statement while discussing logical reasoning. This is one of the most important statements, most frequently asked statement. Okay. So some x's are y's, if that is given to you, the obvious conclusion will be that some y's are x's. Some y's are x's. You can see very clearly in the diagram itself. This is x, this is y. Some x's overlap with y, some y's overlap with x. No confusion at all, no doubt, right? Now second one is what is always false. What is always false? Clear? Something which is always false is, one by one we will see what is always false. First statement, no x is y. This will clearly be false. Why will it clearly be false? Because we have already told some x's are y's. How can you say that no x is y? Okay. Similarly, the second statement which will definitely be false is that no y is x, no x is y, no y is x. Okay, that's definitely clearly false. Okay. Now, if apart from these two, everything else will fall under maybe true, maybe false. Well, let's see. Let's try here. What all will come under maybe true, maybe false? That means lots of possibilities are there, and that is why this statement is one which is most important. Maybe true, maybe false. We can say, is it possible that all x's are y's? Yes, it is possible. If it is given to you some x's are y's, it's very much possible that all y's are x's. Okay. Remember this one thing, in any diagram, if we have one circle inside the other circle, there is a possibility. Now this is a possibility, not a certainty. There is a possibility that the two circles can overlap, x and y can overlap. This part you have to keep in mind. If I increase the size of y to overlap with x, that's 100% possible, right? So if it's given to you some x's or y's, I only have information about some part, I don't have information about the remaining part. The remaining part could also belong to y. That is why we say all x the y's is a possibility. All y's are x's is also a possibility. Some x's are not y's, that is also a possibility. Some x's are not y's, and some y's are not x's. Some y's are not x's. This is also a possibility. Okay. So all of these are possibilities. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 possibilities, 2 statements which are always false, and 1 statement which is definitely true, valid conclusion. So these are the things that we need to understand about the third categorical proposition. Some x's are y's. Understand there are 2 diagrams. One diagram is that x and y overlap like this, or second diagram is x is a larger circle and y is a smaller circle. This is our basic diagram. This is what we make all the time, and this is a possible scenario which we keep in mind while solving questions in the exam. Keep this in mind. Okay, that is our third statement. Let's go to the fourth statement of the categorical propositions under syllogism. The fourth statement is particular negative. Particular negative, or what we call as PN, and some books is called as O. Okay, AEIO, particular negative. Now here we have the statement first. What is the statement? Some. Particular, so it talks about some, says x's are not y's. Some x's are not y's. Okay, particular negative. Some x's are not y's. What is the meaning of this statement? So as I always do this, first we will write down the meaning. That is, some elements which belong to x definitely do not belong to y. Okay, which belong to x definitely do not belong to y. So we have information about some part of x that definitely excuse me, does not belong to y. We have no information about the remaining part of x, and we cannot say anything about how the remaining part of x will belong to y or not belong to y. Okay. So what is the diagram here? So you see, this is this circle of x, and this is the circle of y, and we know only about this part of x. and we know that this part of x does not belong to y. We have no information about the remaining part of x. The remaining part of x could have any relationship with y. It could overlap with y could be completely inside x also, right. So we have no information about the remaining part of x, only we know about some elements of x that definitely do not belong to y. So what we will do now, look at the three things again. What is the valid conclusion? Valid conclusion, here the valid conclusion will be no conclusion. Very interesting, you see, there is nothing that can be said with certainty when we know only about a part of x, and that also we know about it in the negative. We do not have information about the remaining part of x. That is why there is no conclusion for this statement. Now next is always false. Is there something which is always false? Yes, there is one statement that will definitely be false, and that is all x's are y's. This will definitely be false. All x's are y's. This is not possible, because we have clearly told that some x's are not y's. So saying all x's are y's, this is 100% not possible. And everything else will come under may be true, may be false, and that means there will be possibilities. May be true, may be false. Okay. So everything else, you can just simply write all other statements like some x's are y's, some x's are y's, no x is y, no x is y, all y's are x's, some y's are x's. All of these are possibilities. Some y's are x's, some y's are not x's, some y's are not x's, and no y is x. All of these are, so all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So you see, out of 8 statements, 6 statements come under may be true, may be false. One statement is always false, and one statement is the statement itself, and that is some x's are not y's. So all the 4 statements we have covered for you, with everything about the 4 statements regarding valid conclusion, always false, may be true, may be false, diagram and meaning. So if you watch the video again and just try to note down things very in a detailed manner, understand everything, okay. And when we start solving questions in the next session, you will understand how we are going to use these concepts in solving the questions on syllogism, okay. So now is the time for the CPP, right. So some basic questions from syllogism I have selected for you. 10 questions are there that will just test your understanding of the categorical propositions which I have taught you today, right. So those who are passport members, once you hear the sound, can start solving the questions from the CPP, right. So best of luck to you, and I will discuss the question which most of you get wrong in my next session.